What's going on, guys? Didn't do my opening today. Felt like coming right in because I'm running late. Opening today. Felt like coming right in. Hey, how you doing, Gregory Harlan? Haven't seen you here before. Welcome to the club. How you doing, Chappie? So let me fix something real quick. Don't let true love or these offers get away. Get 2.9 accuracy for 36 months at $10. That's better. You know what? I'm going to do my damn opening. There we go. I feel better. If I don't hear my music coming in, I don't feel like it's a normal night. Something is wrong once again with StreamYard. Again, it was doing a delay, and that's why I was testing it. I tried out last night. I tried out OBS, and it turns out I am just too stupid for OBS. I was playing around with that on live streams, and that I was like, okay, I can't deal with all these changes. And now I'm going to try Streamlabs too. My main thing I want to do is I want to get my Stream Deck and hook it up to all these things. So make it so that I can do all kinds of different things, especially in the new studio. But right now, it's just StreamYard and all its goofy quirks. How you doing, Anthony Manzano? William, when you do your simulcast on both Poindexter Lounge and your actual channel, why does your shows only show up on Poindexter, not your regular channel? Something I have to fix on the setup. It's if you go... When I do the simulcast, if you just go to live, I have to go into my own YouTube page and fix the layout so that you see all videos. But if you click on the live one, you'll see it's right there. So yeah, that's why I noticed that too. When I go to find it, it'll show you just all the videos. Same thing when I go to Enosh's network. It'll show all the stuff that he's done, but it won't show any of the live stuff unless you click on the live tab. I've always found that goofy, but yeah, there you go. How you doing, Daniel? All right, guys. So I guess it's pretty obvious what the news was about today. Another alleged nail in the Snyder coffin. And by the way, I see people on my timeline. I get tagged and stuff, and on both Facebook and Instagram, I get messages. People know that I prefer Snyder stuff, and they're like, "Oh, look, William, it's finally dead. Oh, look, William, it's a nail in the Snyderverse coffin." And I politely, in the most polite and heartful and endearing way possible, want to tell everybody who keeps spreading that stuff and gloating and dancing, go fuck yourself. Seriously. Whether it's a nail on the coffin or it's 6 feet under with dirt on top of it, why do you fucking care? And why are you making a living off of anybody's coffin? When there are shows on TV that get canceled that I don't watch, I don't fucking care. All right? I don't go calling up my cousin because the show he watches is gone and be like, "Hey, yeah, what are you doing? How you gonna cope?" I heard the word cope all day today. The only thing I'm coping with is the fact that some of these people, their lives revolve around gloating and chasing people down after every headline. Every time there's a headline about anything, I wonder what these people are going to do. Well, this one is telling you to go fuck yourself. All right? Seriously, I don't get any joy off of anybody's thing not happening. Look, there's plenty of movies you guys have heard me talk about, plenty of shows that I don't give a rat's ass about. But if they make you happy and if they keep your lights on, then go have at it. You loving something doesn't really mean jack shit to me. But I mean, in the last 7 hours, the usual suspects. Oh, and R.I.P. Snyderverse, R.I.P. I'm like, oh, literally, my goodness. Or you just waiting around your computer and your cell phone and be like, another headline. Let me go see if I can squeeze the life out of all the people around me and create a goofy, shitty looking thumbnail. I mean, stop. All right. The people, I've always told that we're the extremists and we're the toxic people. I haven't made a thumbnail about, anybody's show going off the air, anybody's movie not being made ever. Right? I've never made one dime off of somebody's misery of something getting canceled or cut short. So who are the toxic ones? Us or them? I mean, geez. So anyway, we had these. The Hollywood Reporter came out with an article, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it out. Now, keep in mind, yes, I know things like the Hollywood Reporter, Forbes, and all these magazines are trades, and they're supposed to be the Bible. If it happens in the Hollywood Reporter, that means it's gospel. The problem I've had with any of these in the last couple of years, and I'll throw Rolling Stone in there for good measure, is they either do one of two things: hit job, or they give you the truth, but there are so many gaps in the truths that they give you that it's like you end up with more questions than answers. And today was no different. I'm not calling the Hollywood Reporter liars or anything like that, but once I read this article, you're going to see. I mean, if you haven't read it, you're probably going to have more questions than answers. And to be honest with you, James Gunn said, unless it came from him, it pretty much isn't shit. So unless James Gunn has taken over the editorial board of the Hollywood Reporter, I'm pretty much in the same space as I was 8-9 hours ago. So I'm going to go ahead to say hi to you guys in the chat. Then we're going to go ahead and read this article. Oh, I'm putting you to sleep. Thanks, RJ. Nah, I know you had tonsillectomy and all that, so you're probably on drugs right now. So, all right. Well, I don't have a problem with the reboot down the line. That's fine. I just think there's still more story to tell with these characters, and I honestly think rebooting DC would be. I'm going to go into once we read the article. If you guys have watched me for any amount of time, I think reboot is synonymous with stupidity. I think if you ever needed a cooler word for stupidity, reboot is that word. And I'm going to tell you, we'll go into details why. I'm telling you that from somebody who's watched movies being rebooted, movie franchises being rebooted, TV shows being rebooted, and the most damaging form of reboot is in the comic book form. There's a reason why it's hard right now to sell DC Comics, is because of the reboot and so many reboots over the last 25 to 30 years. That adds up. It kills your credibility. But yeah, I'll get to that. And like I said, most reboots, and people don't really want to sit down and think about this, most reboots fail. All right. Bringing some good news. The best news I can bring you is it's coming from trades who come from those favorite people in my whole wide world, which is unnamed sources. And we've had for the last 3 or 4 weeks a guy who pretty much told you unnamed sources were worthless as long as he's the one doing the talking. Now, when James Gunn comes out with his plan and says, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to reboot this, we're going to rebuild this, reboot that, then, okay, now I'm going to start taking it hard. Like I said, I'm not saying that the Hollywood Reporter is lying. We're about to read their article. What I am saying is there's a lot there left to be connected. There's a lot of ambiguity there that really... That's why I don't like these articles, because they take 4 or 5 truths and they spread them across a large landscape, and I can drive a truck or a Jeep in between everything else that they've left wide open. And then what ends up happening is everybody starts panicking. Everybody starts saying that the sky is falling, on the people who are wanting something. And then the people who are gloating are like, they come out of their coffin and at midnight, and they make a cottage industry off of people's misery, which is pathetic. I think. I mean, you'll never see me do it here. I did not get into YouTube or public discourse to profit off of anybody's misery or conspiracies, for that matter. You know what I mean? It's one thing to speculate. Speculating is cool. It's fun. But these fucking conspiracy theories hurt my head on both ends, both in support or against. It's like, my goodness, it is dizzying. So, All right, Manzano, William, have you been talking about this? And I told you that James Gunn is going to completely reset the DC universe once he for movies he canceled Wonder Woman thing. We always knew this was a possibility, but we did talk about this, and I also told you, out of all the possibilities on the table, the absolute worst one is a reboot. And once again, after I read this article, I'll go into why. And it's like I said, statistically. And you also have to, whenever you say reboot, you have to look at where you're at. And right now, be honest with you, I am consistent in waiting and being excited for what Gunn has to bring forth. I'm not going to condemn any plan until I see the plan. I'm not talking about the Collider and the Hollywood Reporter and the Wrap and the Directs version of the plan. When James Gunn and Peter Safran unleashed this plan, I am going to reserve judgment to see how it goes. Oh, wow! To see how it goes. I Even if it's a reboot, if he does a reboot, I'll be a lie. I have nothing else better to do. Do I think it's going to be successful? Not really. Even if he does really good and they put out high quality stuff, the problem with reboots is you ran out the patience of not only hardcore fans but the general public. You're starting to float into those waters of apathy where people just don't care. And when you reboot, you basically piss off both levels of fans. The hardcore guys, you're basically telling them the last 9 years pretty much, unless you end it differently. Like I said, we do not know how this is going to transition. But if you were to do a hard boot without resolution, you're basically telling people the last 9 years was kind of worthless. And the newer people, or the normies, or the people who are casually side-eyeing us and kind of jump in and out of the water, they'll go, they'll come in for Batman and Superman, but the other stuff, they're like, those guys are like, oh, this again? Okay. They're not going to get mad. They're not going to start a YouTube page. They're not going to get on Twitter and hashtag the world. They're just not going to watch. And that's the guy you have to worry about, or gal you have to worry about. Not the guy who screams and does a stupid-ass YouTube page profiting on misery and conspiracy. It's the 97% of us that are just going to be like, wow, not interested. Okay. Wow, another Superman? Nah, not interested. Wow, another Batman? What happened to the other Batman I paid to see a couple of years ago? Wow, where's Superman? This is those guys. And you don't have to be a hardcore geek to ask those questions. And once those questions have to be asked over and over again by the general audience, you're in the waters of apathy where people just don't care. All right. And that's the one thing you do not want. Yeah, you have your haters and your loyalists, but those are always going to make up the small percentage of people. Once you get apathy setting in the general public, you get box offices like Black Adams and Shazams and Suicide Squads and Birds of Prey. Once it's okay for people not to care about your product, it's real easy to write it off, especially with HBO Max and all the other streaming services. They're just not going to make that investment. All right. They're not going to make that investment in a Lobo. They're not going to make that investment in a Blue Beetle without the context of, the pillars of DC around it. Like, if you were to reboot, what are you rebooting to? You're going to reboot to another Superman? All right, these guys are signed for 3 years with a 10-year plan, and neither of those time labels are going to be enough because, remember, you have everybody who's ever watched Superman with a death grip on the previous Superman. That's their Superman. And you spend years and years and years coaxing them to let go of that one in order to grasp and take hold of yours and give yours a chance. That takes years. My question is, even if I'm along for the whole ride and I'm supportive of it, if I'm a shareholder, do I have that kind of patience? If I'm the general audience, do I want to cross that Rubicon with you again? Those are questions that if, I'm fronting you with money and financing you with money and I'm buying stock and I'm leveraging, those are questions I'm going to need to know. And I'm going to need to know them a lot sooner than 3 years or 10 years. Maybe that's not fair, but like I said, these IPs are worth infinite amount of money if you're handling them right, and not everybody who's a stockholder in WBD is a comic book fan that's going to see things out through years and years and years to the end of the tunnel. So you have those going up against it. Hold on, let me get. I really want to get to this article. Hey, Daniel, what's going on? Yeah, and once again, I'm taking maybe this is true. I'm taking this with a grain of salt. This doesn't make sense to me. And the reason why this doesn't make sense to me is his at last. Well, first of all, he's the milk magnet, and he's still a milk magnet who's not aging at 42. He's looks very good. You don't know how much. Why? How are you going to make a decision on a sequel to a billion-dollar movie before it's been released? And if you put out that this is the end for a lot of things, you pretty much devalue the movies that you have coming out. This is why I don't believe this entirely. Like I said, I'm not saying Hollywood Reporter is lying. What I'm saying there's a lot of gaps in between here that just don't make sense to me. I mean, if Aquaman 2 comes out and makes a billion, how are you going to tell me that you're not going to bring the milk magnet back? I don't understand that. If the whole object is to make money, wouldn't you wait to see what Aquaman does before you told him to go away? And oh well, he can still play Lobo. Nobody knows who the fuck Lobo is. All right, we got to stop it with this Shazam and Black Adam syndrome. I love those characters, but I am geek worthy. All right, I am. You cut me, I bleed geek. I can tell you everything about those characters. I can tell you everything about Lobo. I can tell you everything about every obscure comic book character you ever known. But guess what? Those aren't going to be the draws. All right. Lobo is Black Adam again. We're hardcore, not even a hardcore 3%ers. All of us went to go see Black Adam. All right, and I did a screening for Black Adam, and nobody knew who he was. And the people who I talked to who didn't go to the movie love The Rock, but weren't going to drop $100 off of a character they didn't know. So we're gonna go into that again with Lobo. Less people know who Lobo is than know who Black Adam is. I'm not saying I've always supported having these characters around, but the question's always going to come back to where's Superman, where's Batman, where's Wonder Woman, and now you're talking about resetting that, and that takes years. That is getting an establishment, building a bedrock to a Superman fan is a years long process, no matter who it is. Everybody but Christopher Reeve pretty much is going to face that from now on. Same thing with Batman. All right, it is a process that you go through with, letting go of Christopher Nolan's Batman, or to the point where it's okay for you to embrace Ben Affleck's Batman. Hell, you have people hanging on to Adam West's Batman when I was going to see Michael Keaton's Batman in 1989, and then you had people who couldn't let go of those. They think that they only have space in their heads for their Batman. And really, you know what? The brain's a beautiful machine. It can handle more. But that's the way we think. So you're talking about a years-long process. And you know what? If that's what you're going to do, cool. But understand you're going to take some losses up front. And some of these business types aren't always okay with those types of losses. If you lay down your game plan and you start giving me these B and C characters right out of the chute, and then you're going to build up to something else, you're going to have to tell these people, hey, I don't want to hear, gloom and doom about this 300 million, 400 million box office right out of the door. We're going somewhere. You're going to have to sell a long-term plan to people who are shelling out a lot of money. And I just don't see that the stockholders would have that kind of patience. Now, the general audience, it's not even about patience with the general audience. You still have to attract the general audience. Right now, the general audience is not with us. They pretty much, it's like hypnotism. Once you break that spell, people just look a different direction, and that's where we're at with DC. And the only way you really get them back is with the big red S, with the bat. And if you're gonna give me these smaller ancillary characters, then you bring in those people under those light. Like I can bring in several characters through Superman. I can bring in tons of characters through Justice League, and then I get them their own little thing. I bring them into the big tent, and then people can take away what they want. But so right here, this doesn't make any sense to me. Even if this is true, maybe I'm just an idiot. If Aquaman 2 comes out, and let's say it does 800 million. All right. 800 million, maybe 180, but 800 million, sells a bunch of merchandise, sells a bunch of Blu-rays, DVDs, goes in demand, and the MILFs just say, "Give me more Jason Momoa," which is, I don't know MILFs that say no to Jason Momoa. I don't know if the woman exists that says, I'm a guy, I'm on a different level. But the business would say keep going. So I don't know. It's tough. But on the same hand, I didn't wish for this change just to second guess these guys once they got here. I don't, like I said, taking it with a grain of salt what we're reading. If, let's say for argument's sake, that this is true and they're just going to come in with a hard reset, I'm on board. It would disappoint me because, like I said, my time is just as valuable as the general audience. Nobody has forever. We spent 9 years on this. Now you're telling me, without resolution to what we spent the 9 years on, you're basically telling me to trust you again. That's a hard ask. Whether it's fair or not, it's a hard ask to tell somebody. It's like you coming to my restaurant and I made you a steak. It tastes like shit. All right, it tastes like shit. And then, but wait, stay in your seat, or no, come back next Tuesday, and I promise you, this is gonna be better. A lot of times you only get one or two chances. And DC from 2013 to 2022 has had a lot of chances. And now you're saying 9 years of that bad taste in your mouth. Wait, now close your eyes and open your mouth and let me give you this. Can you kind of understand where the average person will just move on? They have video games, they have streaming, they got Netflix, they got all kinds of stuff. They got TikTok, they got things that that are culture building and that are stable. Now you're giving them something that's unstable. So I'll be there, and I think James Gunn has great vision. I think James Gunn could actually put out great movies. That's a different question. Whether I think James Gunn can give me quality content and quality story, that's the geek end of things. Yes, I think he can. He has proven that much. Now, but we do have the thing about the business end of it, the sustainability. Even though it's not our money, we're still talking about if it doesn't make money, if it's not sustainable, then we don't get any more. So if you're going to go down the deep end with B and D characters and I end up latching onto them and enjoying them, but they don't make any money, I end up with the excuse of, well, it wasn't, good. And then here we go again. I guess the biggest question you would have to answer for the general audience, even some geeks like me, why should I trust you with new money when I saw what you did with my old money? That's a legitimate question. James Gunn may have a great fucking answer. And I've always said that when they decided to change course with whatever Zack Snyder was doing, if they would have inserted and put in something that just blew our hats off and just said, holy cow, I'd give me more of this. If they would have had something ready within a reasonable amount of time, we would be talking about that. Yeah, like I said, there would still be some of us hardcore guys who wanted the end of that story. Some of them may be even toxic. But when the general audience would have been on your side, most of the fandom would have been on your side, and we'd have been following you around. But they didn't. They gave you 5 years of nothing. So, in all fairness, if James Gunn comes in and sets the dynamite to everything, but then turns out and gives me, Scorsese level, Coppola level, Spielberg level shit, I'm open to that. I just don't think they have that kind of time. I think time's up. I think 9 years was enough time. I think that unfairly they're coming in with the weight of the previous 9 years because people don't forget the previous 9 years. So let's go. Yeah, and like I said, I'm one of them, and I've yet to do any of these things that are criminally crazy. Goblin, I guess they might have acutely rebooted, as you said. Okay, maybe I'm reading. Well, William, I guess they might acutely reboot, as you said, might jive well with the people. I don't know if it's going to jive at all, to be honest with you. But in all fairness, we're going on an article that has a lot of gaps. In fact, let me go ahead and bring up this real quick because, like I said, I read the article. And it's just a matter of, okay, how many this is and that's do you have in there? So let's see. Sorry, we're particle. All right. So and there are other articles that have come out. I'm just going to go from Hollywood Reporter because that seems the Bible that people have been reading from today. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one up there, and then we'll go from there, and then I'll get back to the chat. So, all right, report one to be canceled. WWE has new DCU plan. Warner Brothers Discovery has rejected director Patty Jenkins' proposed plans for a third Wonder Woman film, according to a late afternoon exclusive report from Boris Kitt at the Hollywood Reporter. The apparent cancellation comes as newly hired DC Studio CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran have just completed their initial plans for the future of WBD's cinematic shared universe of DC Comics superheroes. The report goes on to say the Wonder Woman sequel, which Jenkins co-wrote with Jeff Johns, that's one problem right there, is considered dead in its current incarnation. Gunn and Safran are said to have told Jenkins her story doesn't fit into the plans for the DCU's future. It's important to note that this only cancels what Jenkins presented as her current plan for Wonder Woman and doesn't necessarily preclude a sequel being made with a different story. And that's another thing that people didn't hit on. They just basically said, "Oh, Wonder Woman 3 is canceled. It's all going down, circling the drain." All right, or with an altered version of the existing story. It's also possibly relevant that the test screenings of Aquaman the Lost City reportedly don't include either the Batman cameos filmed by Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, suggesting a final decision hasn't been made about which to include, which in turn might suggest the choice is relevant to the future DCU plans, at least short term, if not long term. All right, so we're going to put a lot of words in here, like doesn't necessarily and possibility. Remember how many times I have to repeat those words. Like I said, we're not lying here, but there's a lot of stuff in here that could really make you chase your tail endlessly and needlessly. That said, much of the information and rumors, that's another word, coming out of the studio, making the round suggests that Gunn and Safran there's another one, might be planning to let the current crop of DCU films release in theaters and then close out the existing version of DCU altogether and replace it with a new rebooted cast of heroes. In that scenario, 2023 would seemingly close out the DCU with the release of 4 theatrical films, and 1 streaming series tie-in, Shazam, Fear of the Gods, The Flash, Blue Beetle, Aquaman, The Last Kingdom, and season 2 of Peacemaker, streaming on HBO Max. However, that's another keyword here. However, in that scenario, it seems that intended DCU projects set in the current universe would fail to materialize, including 2 additional Gunn spinoffs of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. That's unless those 2 projects can be handed off to other filmmakers to develop next year for release in either 2023 or 2024. It's also possible, here you go, that's like 3 times now for possible, that one of the 2 additional DCU projects might be allowed to move forward if they can complete production next year in the time for the 2024 release, which would, in this when this purely hypothetical situation, that's a big word that covers all of it, extend the life expectancy of this iteration of DCU for 2 more years. It's also possible, number 5, Gunn and Safran plan to retain elements of the current DCU for the future plans. Cancellation of Jenkins' existing version of Wonder Woman 3 is merely delayed until the project can be worked into the larger DCU. And that's something that a lot of people just fail to gloss over. And that's a huge possibility. That's a huge possibility. DCU plans going forward in the hypothetical situation, maybe the new DCU will involve the Crisis on Infinite Earth story. I really hope they don't do that. I'm so sick of Crisis of Infinite Earths of all levels. Type story that crosses over characters and actors from all walks of DC Entertainment, like DCU films, the CW Arrowverse, related series, HBO Max shows, including Titans, Doom Patrol, Superman, and Lois, mixing and matching ingredients to successfully pick the best versions and drop them all together in a brand new DCU. I don't know if that would be a crisis. I mean, okay, the name sucks, but I like the plan. All right. That reintroduces the characters to one another and provides the cinematic versions and respectable backstories. Wouldn't be opposed to that. That actually sounds kind of cool. Just don't call it crisis. In that case, again, purely for example, hypothetical, that's the 3rd time we've heard that word, and not based on any insider information at this point, Gunn and Safran could assemble a team of creators to pick the best stories from comics and sources for other various narrative, similar to the way Marvel Studios let each of their superheroes have origin stories and standalone solo adventures that all featured connective tissue, increasingly built towards the Infinity Saga's main plotline. Perhaps instead, and then perhaps is another word. See, right now, 75% of this article, none of it is lies, but it's conjecture. It's leaving it open. Like I said, I can go ahead and put this in Microsoft and just fill in my own blanks if I wanted to. Perhaps instead, though, Gunn and Safran might plan to end the current DCU after remaining films are released, but not reboot everything entirely from scratch, and instead build a larger DCU founding within the world created by Matt Reeves. This, of all the scenarios, is probably the most ridiculous one, mainly because Matt Reeves doesn't want it, and two, the characters just don't fit. Just like Nolan's universe, these characters, those Batman were designed to be solitary and non-fantastical, and I think it would be an absolute disaster to try to shoehorn those type of characters in there. But now we're getting off to the ones that are really not as probable. So it's just another one of these articles that when they come out, people start running into walls and ripping their dicks out and saying, "Oh my God, what are we doing? It's all over." And did you hear what I'm like? I got more questions now from reading that than anything else. I mean, what are we doing? Is he, why are we going to go ahead and spend hundreds of millions of dollars to promote the next 4 movies when there's a good possibility that the relevant universe that they're in is going to go away? To me, this geek, that kills that. To me, the hard reboot dies when you decided to go forth with some of these movies. Because you're starting to get into the promotion phase of these movies. And when you do promotion right, you're spending a lot of dough. Trust me, I got stacks of posters and t-shirts for some of these movies when we do them. And when they do it right, hell, Suicide Squad, tons of stuff. Harley Quinn was a huge promotional budget. We gave away sledgehammers for that one, right? Sledgehammer keychains, blow-up sledgehammers, purses, and little pop figures and jackals and stuff. You start getting that stuff ready now. So if you're going to do a hard reboot, not only why are you spending that kind of money if you're not going to make that relevant, and two, general fan art geek, why would I go see these movies if that's basically a bridge to nowhere? I don't know everything. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just asking based on the article I just read. That's one huge question that pretty much jumped out and slapped me in the forehead. If you're talking a hard reset, why do I want to go see any of these movies? You could make an argument for The Flash, maybe. But why as a non-MILF like myself, why am I going to see Aquaman? Why am I going to see, like I said, they may have a plan that makes all this make sense, but it wasn't in that article. All right. And there's just too many holes in this for me to go one way or the other. Could they do a hard reboot? Yeah, but it don't make any sense to me. I mean, business-wise. So why what are you going to do about Shazam, Fury of the Gods? You're going to promote that. We're already starting to get ready to promote that. I mean, why would you waste that money? I mean, are you just not going to promote these films and just going to let them roll out and not spend any money? I mean, that's a possibility. But on both ends, why would you begin promotion for these movies that might mean nothing? And as a fan, why would I invest in movies that might mean nothing? So my logic is that they're not going to mean nothing. I think there's something here that's not in that article that'll probably be released, by them, because I still think they're keeping it close enough to the best. And there's a lot of stuff in these articles that, wait a minute. He just spent the last 2 or 3 weeks saying, you guys don't know shit. Now we know shit. But he hasn't said anything. So I'm going to wait. It could be 100% true. I'm not, everything about this article could be true, but there's some things that are missing in order for me to go chasing my tail again, which is the trades have me doing all the time. I'm not going to chase my tail right now because there's not a tail to chase right now. I'm going to need a little bit more info. And I got questions. So, all right. So let me go ahead and hit with the chat again because I'm behind. Okay, yeah, we talked about that. All right. All right. No, the Hardywood Reporter is not a nonsense publication. I don't. Board's Kit, Orange County, etc. are very reputable. Do I need to read you that article again, though? I literally couldn't get through the article without coming up with 3 or 4 questions. And that's fine. I 100%. Let's say the article is 100% true. There's not enough there for me. Like I was telling you this the early night, RJ. I was wondering whether I should get on the stream based on that article. There's just not enough there for me to do what we are not do what we've been doing for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, which is basically go running after a parked car off after every single article. I debated not streaming tonight about this because there just wasn't enough there. A conspiracy theorist can make a conspiracy out of a mousetrap with no cheese. That's not. I mean, every conspiracy theorist and doomsday sayer can jump on that article and be like, "Oh, this is that." But as a literal, literate person who I'm open-minded to what James Gunn is going to do next, I didn't see anything in this article that was concrete saying that, this or that. Or when it did lean towards one, it just opened up another question. Like I said, RJ, this article doesn't answer my biggest question. Then why are we going forward with the current slate of movies then? If what they're saying is 100% true. So what I would need from Hollywood Reporter and Deadline and all these guys is just a little bit more bone. Otherwise, just another day. It's just another day. It's an interesting article. It's not, it's not trash. It's not like the Rolling Stone hit job. But just like maybe my biggest problem with this article is not the article or the people who wrote it. It's the response from people who I think should know better to this article. Maybe that's where I should restate myself. No, to me, Gunn not coming on this article says a lot more the other way too. When he doesn't not, he doesn't have he doesn't hold back when it's time for him to say something. So him not saying something about this, I mean, even if it's coming out, I mean, sometimes he's coming out and say, "Hey, well, this is not true. This is bullshit." But here's the thing, though. In order for him to comment on any of this stuff, he basically has to spill the beans before he spilled them his ass off. And I don't know if that's going to be okay. In your opinion. Yeah, it's all opinion. Like I said, very disappointed and mad that Wonder Woman 3 got canceled. It's seriously... And once again, another thing in that article is even they admitted that just that story, that iteration was canceled. They even threw about the possibility that a different story or different script, because remember, when she wrote that story, these guys hadn't been named. When she wrote the story with Jeff Johns, who really needs to go away, when she wrote Wonder Woman 3, those guys weren't even hadn't been named as part of anything yet, and they hadn't started laying the groundwork. So it's very easily understandable that what she wrote is not consistent with the way they got going forward, and therefore they rejected. I didn't see anything in the article that said it's over for Gal Gadot, or it's even over for Patty Jenkins, who, after Wonder Woman 84 has some issues with, but you know what? Everybody can redeem themselves. I didn't see anything in the article that said that. It said that they were in that iteration of Wonder Woman didn't have. Now, could this be the end of Gal Gadot? Yeah. Could this be the end of Patty Jenkins? And could this be no more Wonder Woman? But I didn't get it from that article, though. And the vibes I'm getting from all these guys that I tried streaming and looking at other shows today, and I'm like, oh my goodness. As I'm reading the article, I'm listening to people talk about the article, and I'm like, what are you guys reading? Maybe I shouldn't blame the trades. I should blame the knuckleheadedness lens that people look at the read of the trade, because I didn't see that. Now, if they would have come out independently and said, Patty Jenkins is done, with mutual parting of the ways, creative differences, and, then I'd be like, okay, now, we're talking about something, we'll eventually hear it because you don't come out and, spit on yourself like that unless it's true. They didn't say that. They just, like I said, not a huge fan of Patty Jenkins' version of Wonder Woman outside of the original Wonder Woman. But like I said, I'm open-minded to a third one. I hope she does better. But I didn't see in an article that said she's done, and Gal Gadot's done. And what that did is that tripped off a lot of speculation. So could it be true? Yeah, but I don't see where you got it from that article. So just me. All right, Film Golem, I've always said they have two options: either continue the Snyderverse or do a full reboot. No, they have many more options than that. You could basically just start. You could take the established characters you have and just move forward. You don't have to revert back to anything, because, like I said, those two storylines, both Justice League and Zack Snyder's, left in a way that they've moved on to other things. They were done with Darkseid for the time being. Yeah, somewhere around 9, he's coming back. He's coming back with his Armada. But you can tell 10, 15 years of stories in between that if you wanted to. But, you transition. See, the problem with a hard reboot, when you don't give people resolution, it becomes a crisis of faith. People just don't trust you. All right? People just don't. When you cut things off and you don't resolve things, people lose trust in you. All right? They lose that brand loyalty. And your brand starts to get damaged because it's associated with things that just never got done. So that's not something you want hanging around your collar. Be honest with you, realignment is what they need to do. Like I always say, and this is what it sounds, and that's another thing that the article does actually put out, is that they may take inventory of what they had and pick and choose what they want and realign things along. Be honest with you, like I said, I'm going to retract what I say about the trades, because, like I said, I think the trades haven't done the greatest of job. But in this particular article, it's not the trade. It's the interpretation of what the trade has said. It's the running with the nuggets that fit and get clicks that people have done that have made that article what it is. Because when I read the article, I don't see that. I see possibilities. I see rumors. I see speculations. I see things that might be mostly true, but that 25% that you're not getting in that article is a big deal. And none of it's been approved by. I mean, there's so many possibilities here. All this, it's a conversation piece, and it's cool. If you take the conversation piece for what it is, fine. But if you start like literally creating a cottage industry and like it's all dead, now what? And then the conspiracy theories, and then everybody's ready to hate James Gunn, and I'm like, listen, dude, I began this James Gunn and Saffron thing open to what they had to be in store, even if it meant that what I had been holding on to for the last 5 years wasn't part of it. I'm in. But here's the thing. If they create something that people don't come to see, we're dealing with the same situation as we've always been dealing with, which is waiting for some corporate knucklehead to pull the rug out from under us. And it's like, it's like a bridge, it's creaking and making that lot of noise. You really want to take your car across it because you don't know how far you're going to get before the damn thing falls. And that's what I think a lot of people are angry about. But my thing is, this article should change nothing in your mindset about waiting to hear from James Gunn. There is a possibility that James Gunn might roll out some shit that is awesome. Oops, move my mic. James Gunn might come out with this Bible and this plan and this game plan, and it may make me jump out of this chair and scream hallelujah. Leave open that possibility that all this could lead to that. What I'm saying, as far as the Hollywood Reporter and all that goes, it's just not enough in that article for anybody to make any conclusion to. And there's a lot of people making a lot of conclusions to it. So, and that's why me and my relationship with the trades, and maybe it might not be, it may be 50% of the trades just being ambiguous. But like I said, when they do that, when they write these articles in that fashion, what have I always said? When credible sources leave gaps, everyone else fills in those gaps with bullshit. And we pretty much had 7 hours of bullshit. And I'm not a Twitter guy, but I'm rolling down. I'm like, oh my goodness. As a meteorite headed towards the Earth, what do you calm down, guys. All right. Some actors do need to move on from DCU. Ezra Miller, Ray Fisher, Gal Gadot, adios amigos. I don't have any problem with any of those guys. And it is another thing about Ezra Miller. Flash comes out. Let's just hypothetically, who knows how much it'll make. Let's say it makes $1 billion. And like I said, if he's determined to be the reason, well, a critical reason why, just like they said there wouldn't be a Joker 2, guess what? Money talks, bullshit walks. Ray Fisher, had no real issue with him. I know he had issues with the company. Gal Gadot, I mean, aside from Wonder Woman 2, people loved Gal Gadot. I mean, they loved Wonder Woman. They praised Wonder Woman as being the only DCU movie that was good and all that bullshit that was coming out then. She was beloved in the character. Now, she was misrepresented in her sequel, but I mean, a lot of people are. And if you do a franchise of movies, you're gonna have some ones. Everybody has a bad day at the office, but I don't have young enough to play the role for a while. And once again, eventually, all of these characters are going to run through their interpretations and be replaced. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with James Gunn starting new. I wish and hope he did a transition so that it is a credible base to stand on. But you know what? I'm open to what he has. I'm just waiting for him to give it to me. They were afraid to make any kind of move the last 7 years. Yeah, and that management was they're gone. Yeah, soft reboot. Like I said, unless you have, and like I said, once again, let's give these two guys a chance to help what they're doing. I don't want to hear it from the Hollywood Reporter. I don't want to hear it from Deadline. I don't want to hear it from Rolling Stone. I don't want to hear it from the Scooper. I don't want to hear it from a YouTube personality. I want to hear it from them. I want to hear it. I want to see their presentation. I want to hear it from the barrel of the gun. And yes, that is a pun. I want to hear it from them because I'm finding myself doing the same thing I did over the last 5 years, which was pull what little hair I have over bullshit. As true and as credible as that article was, there's so many questions. You could literally, if I handed that article in to my English teacher, and my assignment would be to give me definitive path forward, or give me a definitive path forward from what you've heard. She would mark that shit up with red, yellow ink and check marks and everything else and hand it back to me and tell me, finish the mission. So if people went into these articles and these streams and everything else looking for the end-all be-all, the dude just told you 3 weeks ago that he and his partner are the end-all be-all. All right? I mean, and that's I mean, I can't, really expect any more than that. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. If you're not gonna give me what I had and what I was longing for, if you give me a shinier and cooler toy than the one I was playing with, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play with that new toy, and that's what the general audience is gonna do, and that's what fandom in general will do. So it's up to him at this point. Anthony, I admit I'm not a hardcore comic geek. Oh wow, you need to get in. I started reading comics because of the movies and stuff like that for both DC and Marvel. But at least with me, you can have a construction comic. And yeah, and that's all I really want to have. And I think a lot of the times we take this stuff out of context. But like I said, the article was a big deal today, and I read the article, and I just didn't. You could pretty much make your own adventure out of it, depending on what you wanted to read. But once again, they, in the very article that's supposed to spell the doom for everything, they tell you that there are other possibilities, literally within the article. So I don't know, man. Though Snyder's mediocre way, keep his visuals, get real DCU. I liked his content, to be honest with you. I think Man of Steel is one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's all going to be Taste Panther God. There's a lot of directors out there that are directing comic book movies for all sorts of companies that I think are mediocre. I like Taika Waititi. I think Taika Waititi is a great visionary. He's great. Jojo Rabbit is great. What We Do in the Shadow is great. This Thor movie suck. All right. I would rather drink out of the toilet than watch Thor Ragnarok again. Right? I would rather kick myself in my own balls than watch Love and Thunder again. And I like Taika Waititi. So there's a case of a really great visionary making some mediocre shit. I mean, but some of you guys love Thor. You guys love Ragnarok. You guys love and I'm like, continue to love it. But I don't think Snyder's mediocrity and his visuals are part of his story. I mean, he really can't separate the two. But All right, I don't want to see disconnected movies. We need to stop. You know what? You're not going to. Whatever these guys do, whatever they do is going to be connected. All right, whatever they do, good or bad, is going to be connected simply because that is the business model that makes money. All right, standalone films are great. We're going to wait literally 3 years to see a Batman 2. All right, we're waiting 3 years to see a Joker 2. And you need momentum is money, and money is momentum. And when you have a shared universe, you can release 3 to 4 movies a year. And like I said, when I walked out of Spider-Man No Way Home, I was walking into the excitement that was Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, regardless of what I thought about that movie. And when I walked out of the mediocre movie that was Captain Marvel, I was walking into Avengers Endgame. And that is the revenue generator. And that's always been that way. That's the comic book way. That's not even the Marvel way. That is the comic book way of doing things. Because back in 80 years ago, the entire reason why I created JSA and the Justice League is to, it was called a force multiplier. You use 3 or 4 characters, you team them together, you sell more comics. Because not only are you selling their comics, you're selling the group comic, and you're selling anybody who's in those connected comics. Hell, Jimmy Olsen had a long-running comic book because of his association with Superman. All right, the comic book that Darkseid, ironically, first appeared in was a Jimmy Olsen comic. So the comic book mentality is the shared universe. It's been that way since before there was, there were comic movies and anything like that. That is the way of telling a comic book story. It's just always been the way it is. So standalones are great as long as you have your financial revenue generating engine. That is the shared universe, no matter whose comic book company is doing it, especially when you're the team that created the superhero and you're the team that created you're the company that created the superhero team. 20 years before there was Marvel Comics, it was a JSA. All right. I mean, 23 years before there was a Marvel Comics super. And granted, you had Tony with Captain America, Human Torch, and all that, but you didn't have Marvel Comics to speak of until the 60s. And by that time, DC had already been around 2 decades. All right, Anthony, but let's look at it from these actors' perspectives. Maybe they want to do other projects and other movies, and that's fine. And if that's the reason, I'm all for that. Like I said, I drudged through the Hamada years and the Sarnoff years and the Imrak years, and now I have somebody who I do trust James Gunn to as a visionary. I think he's shown us enough to where he deserves the benefit of the doubt. Will he get it is the other thing. Unfortunately, the damage to the brand may rob guys like Safran and Gunn of the benefit of the doubt they would normally get, because so much mistrust and disorganization has happened between the last 5 and 9 years. Fairly or unfairly, they are stepping into a haunted house, all right, and all the ghosts that go with it, all right, all the ghosts of movies that should have never been made, before bigger movies that should have been made, all the mistakes that have been made, they are all ghosts in the house that Safran and Gunn have inherited. Is that fair? No, it's not. Is that a reality? Yeah. And they got to be conscious of that reality. That's all I'm saying. All right. So, yeah, we made that mistake. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I always say, movies like Black Adam, Suicide Squad, and all these movies. I'm not saying don't make them. I'm saying put them somewhere where they can get the most money out of them. Put them in between 2 of your big tentpole movies and see where it goes from there. Otherwise, like I said, nobody knows who this is. And yeah, Dwayne Rock is at that point was $4.50 a gallon. All right. Groceries are expensive. Movie tickets have gone up. Taking a family to go see Black Adam could cost you about $125. That may not sound like a lot of money to people, but it's a lot of money just based on The Rock. All right. People don't invest in just that one guy. They invest in the franchise. They invest in the familiarity of the franchise. There are movies that Tom Cruise, who may be one of the greatest actors to ever breathe, that have not done well financially. But why not? Tom Cruise is in them, right? But, it was a story. People could connect. They'll say, hey, you know what? I love Tom Cruise. I'll see the next MI movie. But there's been other movies that, and every big star has those movies to where they're doing, whether vanity projects or things like that, to where they're in big franchise and people connect with those franchise. But when they go do some things that a lot of people don't know about, now you're telling somebody, reach into your pocket based on your name when it might not be the type of movie that I'm into. And as a wrestling geek, they go, well, wrestling geeks are, we're going to get it. And that should have pushed it over. I'm a wrestling nerd. I know a lot of wrestling nerds that love The Rock that didn't know who Black Adam was and weren't going to shell out the money. They weren't going to go by themselves, and they weren't going to take their family. I mean, it's just, you're asking people to make an investment based on just the star itself. When some of my favorite stars have been in shitty movies. They did a good job in them, but you know what? Like I said, I know some of my favorite actors have been in rom-coms. And you know how I feel about romantic comedies. Some of my favorite actors have been in Human Interest. And you know that I would rather eat shit than sit through a Human Interest movie. So guess what? That star's in that movie. I'm supposed to go see it, right? No. Nope. You know, and I'm not even going to watch it when it comes on demand because it's not my type of movie. I will see that star when he's in something that I really, really like, or when he's in the normal demographic that I really delayed. All right, fun. Did reboot without finishing these stories with these actors is just stupid. Stupid is the word. I just think it's it just sends out a clarion call, and also all these things that you're still making money on. Like I said this before, you're still making money on selling sells well. DC physical media sells well. You're still making money when you're farming these movies out to other stations, getting that ad revenue. I don't know how many times I've turned on TNT and TBS, and I've seen Aquaman, or I've seen Justice League, or I've seen all these movies, and I know that they're charging ad revenue because as a business owner, I've bought ad revenue through local cable companies, and I know that's what they get their money from. And then they sell them to other networks, and other networks make money off of them, and they do promos and toys and all that stuff. I mean, they're still making money off of this, and there's still attractions on your streaming service. So if you cut the cord to those, you're basically, in many ways, making that old content relevant while you could still be making money off of it. So, yeah. And that's another thing. Somebody told me, I think it was, or somebody was saying, I think it was Grace Randolph or somebody saying that it was just a power move to get them to sign a contract. Oh, it's a power move if the person who announces it is doing it. But when all the legitimate, when the film company and the comic book company and all the friends are blurting it out simultaneously, you're going to now, could it be true that we never see Cavill again? 100%. But once again, we have another question. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying these things can't be true. I'm just saying that there's questions arise that make them, some of the things that people are saying just don't make any sense. If it had just been Henry Cavill up there saying it, all right, yeah, he's just angry. But with DC Comics, when it's Warner Brothers Discovery, when it's HBO, when it's all the main people associated with the company, the decision makers, I just have to wait for a clear answer now. And that's what I mean. I'm not going to listen to anything until I hear Bill. Okay, how many articles come out? Okay, how many articles come out? I will take them with a grain of salt until I hear it from the barrel of the gun. All right, the problem was they never continued Snyderverse while all these other movies like Shazam and Black Adam were getting made at the same time. WB kept stalling and playing. Yeah, and those movies came out and Shazam. I love Shazam. I think Shazam is a great movie. It's a heartwarming movie. I love the way I felt when I left Shazam. But like I said, you guys see the shirt, and I'm not wearing it now, but you guys see the shirt that I usually wear, and I always get asked, "What's that question?" It annoys it. That's an awesome Flash shirt. All right, so there you go with that brand loyalty. And without that type of brand loyalty, when you say superhero movie, you people are going to want to be able to associate with that superhero movie. And what they were doing is because they had messed up the previous universe, they couldn't touch those characters because they didn't know what to do with them. And that alone is the reason why they were dismissed, in my opinion. Fans like myself are beginning to lose patience and lost interest. That's the risk. And it's not just the fans like you and me, Gob. It's the fans in general, the general audience. You and me will talk to each other on the stream about it. You and me will put holes in the walls and protest and do all that. Some of the more extreme ends. The general guy, the average Joe, not interested. Move on. You'll never hear from him. He'll never tell you what's on his mind. He'll never give you constructive criticism. He'll never have this kind of conversation with you. He just won't show up. And that's the vast majority of the damage that's been done to the DC brand, is people just stopped showing up. They didn't make the noise. They didn't kick over a table. They just went and saw another movie. And that, when you do all this shifting around, when you do all these reboots, when you do all this cutting and starting and stopping again and scrambling, the average fan's like, it's too fucking complicated. I'm just going to go see something that's easier to think about. That's where DC is right now. Now, when Bible comes out, could that change everything? Yeah. I have a feeling that what James Gunn has in store for us is a little bit more coherent than some of these articles are expressing. All right. I have a feeling that, and I'm leaving myself open to enjoy what James Gunn puts out. I think that James Gunn and Peter Safran are putting together something that is a little bit more pieced together than the bits and drabs and drips that are coming out of these trades. I just have a feeling that that's the case. And then once he delivers that, I can look at it and say, you know what, that looks like shit. I'm not interested. But I'm leaving myself open to embrace what he's giving out, you know? But yeah, that's a word, patience and trust. If you do a hard reboot, you're basically, like I said, you're invalidating not only the previous iterations of that franchise that are still within our generation. Not only is reboot stupid, an intergenerational reboot is like Harry Carey when you stab yourself. All right, because now when it's a cross generational reboot, you can write it off as that that was 20, 30 years ago. And, these don't work now. We need one for this area. But when you literally have these characters within the same generation and you're rebooting and doing all that, you got a lot of explaining to do once to hear. Whatever your reasonings are for doing that, nobody's going to give a fuck. And people bring up, well, they did it with Spider-Man. They reimagined a character within a universe that had already been 10, 12 movies in already. The MCU was already an established machine. Spider-Man could only help it. All right. But when you're talking about rebooting the entire universe within the same generation, that's like me being on a date with a hot chick, right? And she gets up and she goes to the bathroom, and some other chick comes out and says she's her and sits down and starts eating her food. I'll be like, wait a minute. How did this happen? So if they do that within the same generation of fans, they got an explanation that I just don't think anybody's going to give a shit about. Average fans just going to be like, what? Don't understand? Okay, next. Hardcore fan, we're going to be banging our heads against the wall. Like, what's going on? What's going on? I got to do a stream. The 97% that prop ups and make positive movies, it's going to be like, wait a minute. It's too complicated. Pass. And that's damaging. That hurts. All right, RJ, I don't think they'd come to this conclusion of creative slate decision unless they really weighed the value of their state the next year. Weighed the value of their estate the next year in comparison to what they could build out. Once again, I truly believe this is true. I don't, and once again, RJ, I don't know how much of this, what we're reading about, is complete and coherent. I don't think they would do that. I don't think that some of the stuff that's in this article, this theories that they're going with, are going to come to fruition. I think there's a lot missing in this article to where it's we just have to wait to hear from them. So I agree with you. I don't think this is the conclusion that they've come to. I think this is a possibility that was been put on the table. But I think, like many things, this article is lacking all the other possibilities. But at least saves itself and says this is one of include what they're doing. So this article is in regards to their decision making. This article, as far as I'm concerned, means nothing to my thoughts in regard to this decision making, because there's so much that's not there that only they can give us. So yeah, I think they are. I think they are weighing the next year. I think they are weighing what they're going on. And then in 3 years, remember, these guys are only 3 years contract, so and they may want to move on to other things. So they're literally building things that someone else will have to come and pick up for. So yeah, I don't there's too many questions. Why are you putting out these 4 movies? Are you going to invest in push these 4 movies? If there was a hard reboot, then it doesn't make any sense. And the reason why it doesn't make any sense is because there's something missing there we were not hearing or seeing because we're not in those movies. And to be honest with you, neither is Variety, neither is Deadline, neither is Rolling Stone, neither is, they may have some better audio with their ear pressed up against the glass window, but for the most part, as James Gunn has proved, the only 2 people inside that glass window in that corner office is him and Peter Safran. So we go down to Steve-O. Steve-O from Jackass. The only continuity that's happening to DC is fans being divided. The best plan right now is plan. That's not a plan. Once again, reboot is synonymous with stupidity. All right? Most reboots fail. Why? Because most reboots are an act of desperation because you did not have the balls or the brains to figure out the current situation. So you hit a nuclear button and you fuck things up. That doesn't mean you have a good plan. That just means you couldn't fix the linearity. That's fine. As far as fans being divided, that's not going to change, dude. Oh, by the way, thanks, Steve-O. This is the first time I've heard from you, and I like your avatar. Fans are always going to be them. And this is one thing that I hope James Gunn and everybody understands. Just because it doesn't mean you can conduct business. All right, DC is always going to have a divided fandom. It's been around for 80 years. Everybody has their take. Just because something is divided doesn't mean you're excused from doing your job. You know what? Not everybody's going to be happy with you, what you're doing. But if you put out a product and it makes a certain amount of money, it makes you $800 or $900 million, or it makes you $678 million, and increases. Your job is to choose the side that's making you the money. Do your best to give olive branches to some of those people and see if you can bring them over. But you're never going to have a DC film. No matter who's running it, what's going on, you are never going to have a united DC fandom. And it's never going to be that way. It was never designed to be that way. And there's nothing, to be honest with you, when something's been around for a long time, people have different views and different takes on it. All right? That's always going to be the way it is. Eventually, 20 when second and third generations of MCU, you're going to have those same people saying that Hugh Jackman's still my Wolverine, even though he might be fucking 69, 70 years old. And they're saying, oh, he'll never be Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is the best. And that new actor's going to have to fight his way through that divisiveness. So if you're going to do something big and for a long time, divisiveness is part of it, period. And if you're running anything, if you can't deal with that reality, get out. All right? If you can't deal with divisiveness, get the fuck out. All right? Go get a job where everything is just, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and everybody thinks the same way, everybody talks the same way, and everybody writes the same way. Go to some padded cell where everything is like that. But in the real world, there will always be divisiveness. And it's up to the people running the show to get their job done regardless to that. And if you can't do it, that's cool. Move on. I don't think that James Gunn and Peter Safran are pussies, to be honest with you. And as despite what this article put up, I think there's a lot that I think they'll be fine. But once again, DC fans being divided, that is eternal. That is never going to change. Right? We could be gone and dead from this earth, and that is always going to be the case. And to be honest with you, as a guy who's ran a comic book store for most of his adult life, it's the same way there too. But that's part of the cake. It's baked in. That's part of the fun, to be honest with you, because each one of us is getting something different out of it. But other executives, the previous regime, could not do their job because they heard one side whining. They could not put that side out of their head enough to let the guys work. RJ, I thought you were going to sleep. Also, maybe I'm just behind in the chat. All right, the article seemingly implies they're going to retool Flash, Aquaman to serve as the conclusion of the previous era's actors and storyline. If that's the case, I think that makes it better. It does, and that's what I was talking about as far as transition goes. If there's a credible transition, I think they would serve themselves better by having a credible transition. I got to wait. Wonder Woman 2013 nearly touched $1 billion. Aquaman hit $1 billion. That would be like burning. Yeah, and those movies get shown over and over. And guess what? Those people are still here. They're still acting. They're still looking like that. There's still money to be made out of those people, but that's up to them. Darcipio, I think Gunn saw Patty Jenkins' script for Wonder Woman 3 and said, "This is crap." Gunn has plans for Wonder Woman. Yeah, you know what? This could be 100% true. We won't know until we get all the behind stuff. But if she handed, who knows? There's nothing in that article or anywhere else that says Patty Jenkins couldn't go back to the drawing board and make a script. Once again, her script was written before these guys were named and before they started working on their Bible. So, of course, saying that she said, "Get out of our office. Take this trash with you." They could have said, "Hey, this doesn't fit what we're doing." For all we know, and it's not covered in any article, they could have sat down in another meeting or during that very meeting saying, "This is what we're thinking about doing. We're going to lay this out, and then we're going to get back with you. And then if you can aim what you're doing to be consistent with us, then we can let's get something done there." That happens all the time in Hollywood anytime. But it's called adjustments. Now, I'm not saying it's 100%. It's true, and maybe Patty is gone, but we don't know. And this article doesn't really steer you in that direction. Oh, wow. Run to my mouth. Hot takes. I'm a Snyder fan. I didn't do this to anybody. Are you grouping him with all the other guys? Because all I did as a Snyder fan is pay to see the movies. All I did as a Snyder fan was want to end to something you began. I was your customer. You sold me on something, never finished it. I mean, am I the asshole? I mean, I don't know if you're trolling me or not, but I'm a Snyder. Now, like I said, my disclaimers every time we bring up any of this stuff is that, yes, we have some awful people out there that do and say some awful things. But the fact that I'm on your screen and I have never done those things tells you that you cannot put us under the same umbrella. Because no matter how much you want to, you just can't. Daniel Mark and Nerdman, you love the Snyder Cut. That guy named Nerdman. How far am I back? All right, Nerdman. Okay. Obviously, I'm really. Did I miss Nerdman? Where's Nerdman? Sorry, I guess. Saberman, thank you for coming. Okay, William. See, this was the issue I have PTSD from the previous regime, that you're putting all that on the new regime with James and Peter Gunn. And that's the one thing I think is these to change. We do this a lot to where an article or something comes out and we're ready to step on the throats of the people that the article is named after. And all I'm saying is this: there's just not enough in that article for me to jump off a cliff over. It's just not enough. All right. When I hear it from him, or he's in an interview with them, or when I start hearing some things from them and it starts lining up with what they said, now I have their article and I have his words and I can put them together into a coherent, paragraph. Then right now, but right now, I see a lot of people with a lot of hate towards James Gunn, and I'm like, dude, he hasn't even given 1 inch of his plan yet. We're letting the trades kill our hope and momentum for a guy who hasn't given us anything in this role yet. James Gunn has not given me anything to be mad about yet. Peter Safran has not given me anything to be angry about yet. All right, that's the trades getting you guys angry, and that's how you guys are interpreting the trades to get you guys angry. There's nothing in that article that should make you. Everything in the article should make you have a lot of questions and a lot of fair questions, but you shouldn't be. Stop throwing hate at James Gunn already. Stop. I don't even think Peter Safran has social media, but if he does, stop and tag. You betrayed us, and the whole this and that, and we can't, comparing him with the previous regime. That's offensive. All right, we lived through that regime. We endured that regime. So to make criticism post that was one thing. This guy hasn't done shit yet. The only thing he's done is get me excited about DC going forward yet. This article should not change that trajectory. Until he gives you something to be angry about, don't be throwing shade at James Gunn. All right? Now, if he puts out something and it legitimately blows, and then say something. But aiming your salvos and your arrows and your missiles and your nuclear bombs at James Gunn when he hasn't produced one thing yet, and we haven't heard legit from a legitimate and the only legitimate source is him. What's going on? Hold back. All right. Stand at the cliff, and if you want to jump later on when you find out the facts, and jump. But right now, we're still. I still think we're in a good place. It's me. It's like you say, a football team or other sports team gets a new face of the franchise in a draft because the previous one either didn't succeed or was traded away. Yeah, there's a reason why James Gunn and Peter Safran are here. By the way, just not forget that. So, Rational Skeptic, how you doing? I think it looks like you're talking to RJ. Is it just reboot and recasting will really hurt talent relations in Sacha Kal-El, The Rock, and all that? It could. I think my biggest concern, because like I said, those, who knows what they're doing with those guys? Like I said, that's a whole different soup that we don't even know about yet. The fans is what I'm worried about. It's the stability and the bedrock that you're trying to build this on is already shaky, and it's already tested people's patience. If you were to do a hard reboot or a soft reboot or whatever you want to call it, this is you're going to have to saddle up for the long haul, and there's going to be a lot of pain. There might be a lot of disappointing box offices, especially if you go the route of B and C characters. If that's the way you want to go, fine, I'm here for it. Like I said, I have nothing better to do. But not everybody thinks like me. You got people who have no stake in the game that are judging box office wins and losses that are going to be jumping all over the first time we put out a Lobo and it doesn't make any money. Even if it's part of a long-term plan that he's trying to build up to, you don't always get time. As we learned with Zack Snyder, you don't always get time to flesh out your plan when one part of the plan is perceived to not be where people want it to be. It's not there, but that's a reality of Warner Brothers. All right, you put fair invitations on the new face of the franchise because the previous one, yeah, like I said, they walked into a haunted house, unfortunately. This 10-year Fourth 1000 is up. This 10-year DC is 10 years behind. Most younger audiences are not. Yeah, that's a good point, dude. It sounds cool because it's organized and it's out there and we can start thinking, laying our roots and all that. But yeah, you came into the marathon and you ain't even got your shoes on yet. So yeah, that's a good point, Fourth. Fun. The fans are not putting it on the new regime. That's something the old regimes did to themselves. Yeah, fun. But the general fan is not on YouTube with us. They don't know the specifics of what the new and the delineation between new and old is. They're just going to look at a DC movie and be like, that again? So we need to shake them out of that. All right. Hi, fun. Guys saying hi to each other. All right, so let's see if we can get down some guys. No, I'm late, but any news on Pennyworth? No news, not that I've heard of. Yeah, and like I said, that article had a lot of those. Ability, which is fine. That article is just starting a conversation. It's where people take the conversation is what just drives me crazy. You got people who want to take this article and just run with it like it's, a hot potato, and this is the end of everything, and this is, I was right, and this is the basis of this, and this is that. Now everyone is wrong, and everybody has to cope. Fuck you, all right? Nobody has to do shit. All right, we're capable of reading the article and coming out with our own interpretation. I don't need somebody to tell me anything is over based on an article. All right, and that's just one thing about this whole YouTube community and Twitter community in general. Everybody thinks that they have to let somebody know when something's over or when they should move on. Like I said, I always get to the people who come to me. You Snyder guys need to move on. Fuck you. You know what I need to move on from? You. You know who you need to move on from? Me. Our worlds don't need to collide. All right? If the Snyderberg, Easter Bunny, or anything else is never coming back, that is 100% your prerogative. You can tell me shit. All right? I should tell you to stop watching the stupid ass shows you watch. They make you happy, you know. But it's become clickbait. It's become an industry. It's become, like I said, it's like the lone gunman theory. How many millions of dollars have been made off of people trying to look for another shooter besides Lee Harvey Oswald? All right. It's the plane crashing is more news than the plane landing safely 99.99% of the time. But you got people, once again, and I knew it was going to happen. As soon as I saw that article, you got people on Twitter picking fights, tagging people, picking fights. And then people don't buy the bait. Don't respond to these clowns and their little, their coffins and the idiots posing next to the gravestone. Don't mind. That's what they live for. That has become their life. Don't respond to it. Just scroll, mute them or ignore them. But yeah, it's hilarious. But here we are again. All right, they're all saying hi to each other. All right, so I'm gonna scroll past where you guys talk to each other. We'll just have to wait and see for the new announcements if Cavill and Affleck are out the DC movies. There's no. And that is your prerogative, Fourth. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer just to see how it comes together. If it doesn't feel right for me, you know what? I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, I love it just because I like James Gunn. I'm gonna be like, I just don't feel it. It's like Avatar: The Way of the Water. I like the first one was kind of cool. I'm not going to see the second one. It's just not for me. And this new DC may not be for me. I may look at it and say, you know what, Lobo, nah. Blue Beetle, nah. No Superman for a while, man. A brand new Superman. Let me see. Nah. I may give it a shot, and it just may not be for me. But I'm will. I call this other shot. I mean, fair. All right, let's see. Aaron G. Now I know why the Rock been tweeting all day trying to convince people Black Adam was popular. Technically, Black Adam is going to be right. Once again, it's he wasn't just tweeting on his own. He was tweeting from a financier. And when you talk about the actual numbers, that he may be right. It may not be a lot of profit, but once again, A, the movie should have never been made. Not now. B, it was promoted properly during the first half of its promotion. C, nobody knows who the hell is. And D, your DC brand was been so damaged to the point where, we're talking about the first superhero being gone. The state of the DCU, the DC films and DC brand has been so damaged that I don't care what. I think Shazam is going to hurt because the brand has been so damaged for so long. People have just walked away from it, and you're trying to get them back from walking away with a character that nobody's heard of. So you got Blu-rays, you got DVDs, you got on demand, and you have the Japan release. Technically he might creep over. Who knows? But you know what? Like I said, and another thing about The Rock tweeting, everybody said, "Well, The Rock was tweeting and talking all this the whole time that Black Adam's come out." Why? You know why? Because the company that was distributing the movie wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, promoting the movie. The Rock shouldn't have been on. The Rock's the star of the movie. That's great to have the star of the movie pushing it, but you have entire divisions of people who make literally hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of dollars. That is their sole job to promote these movies, to make sure the trailer connects, all that stuff. That's not The Rock, and that didn't happen with Black Adam. So. And like I said, they're doing it's time for a new Wolverine. We'll have 20 years of that Wolverine, and he will be 60 or something years old, and he will have ran his course. The problem is the current generation Superman never ran his course, and now you're bringing others. I said, forget about us nerds. The average is going to be like, who's this? Wait a minute. Where's the last guy? Oh, we're starting over again? Okay, great. I'll see you in a couple of years where I can watch it all at once. There you go. You'll never hear from them, but you'll just walk away. How you doing, Drago? Nah, it's been a day. It's not been like I said, I think most of the fire comes from what people read into the article, because there's so many gaps that you could fill in yourself that people are filling them with things and fantasies, and and wishes that are just not there. So it makes the day seem a lot bigger. Be honest with you, it was like that's the words possibility and rumors are and hypothetically when I'm pointing out to you how many times those words are in these things, and then you add to the fact that we haven't heard from James Gunn yet about all of this. Put that article on the shelf. Pull it out when it's relevant. Did Black Adam? I didn't think I had a lot of fun with Black Adam. I thought it could have been a better movie. I thought it could have been a better directed movie. I thought the plot could have been stronger. I thought it was useless, but a lot of things in the move so fast that you forget about a lot of that. And I had a lot of fun with it. Was it the greatest movie of all time? Oh hell no, but it was still fun. Yeah, once again, this is why I totally agree with you. I can think of other people playing suits. It's just not. I don't want. I don't want them to find decent. But you need to wear the track uniform that you have now. Go shop for a new one when things are stabilized. Aaron G. Okay, good. One day they say Black Adam won't break even, and now they're saying the movies and the black because you're hearing it for the most part. You're hearing it from people that, like I said, you hear anything from people who have their own narratives about things. So a lot of these people were wanting to shit on Black Adam before it was even done, and then they did it before the movie was even released with their stupid comments and all that. And like I said, or there's it may not make a huge profit, but once again, you have to look at the entire situation. Any movie that you release right now that is not Superman or Batman is not going to do well. I hate saying that. That is right now. Gee. The thing that makes me absolutely no sense to me is why are you going to cancel Man of Steel 2 when you have Henry Cavill doing that video saying, and like I said, not just Henry Cavill saying it, it's being broadcasted on their official networks. That's, like I said, I need an answer to that question. If this article is true, then I need answers to those questions, is all I'm saying. Didn't they not promote Black Adam? Is there strategy for these movies released but not promote? The original regime didn't do a good job because they were the ones that started the promotion of Black Adam. We did promotion, as you guys saw. We gave away tons of stuff for Black Adam. I still got posters for Black Adam at the store and T-shirts and bags and comics and all that. The new regime came in and back-ended it and tried to pull it over the line. At that point, you did that 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago. So, and the trailers were horrible, and people didn't really know what it was about, and they didn't know Black Adam. Their selling point was that it was The Rock, but like I said, people aren't going to dig deep in their pocket, even if it's a star that they like, if it's not the movie for them, Which I don't believe. Possible, but not probable. I don't believe that that's the case, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. It's true. I mean, like I said, we don't know what's been said or not said, but at the same time, Black Adam was a movie that was made and they inherited and they had no real control over because, like I said, these new movies they have, even though they've already been done. As if this article is to be believed, then that means the Flash, which I was told was a locked film, was not locked. I mean, they now can change, things with that. So these are, even though they're not their movies, they're more their movies than Black Adam was. I don't think so. I think Cavill's got other options to him if he doesn't want. I think there were other reasons why he left. That too as well. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going back to The Witcher. I think he would want more control over The Witcher. How you doing, Aguilar? I'm okay. I'm not saying they're making stuff up. I'm just saying that there are huge gaps of possibility presenting to me. It's useful to me, not because I don't want to believe it, but like I said, as I'm reading it, I'm hearing too many things that tell me maybe I should slow down here. What if, possibilities, hypotheticals, rumors. When you start hearing those things over and over again in your article, you have to take that article what it is. It's not a lie. It's just not necessarily the entire truth that I need to basically make a judgment on. That would be hilarious. You know what? Whoever that guy is has to follow in the shoes of a MILF magnet. He's gonna have some issues. All right, let's see. And you did a member chat, so that's cool. Thank you. Daniel Martin, $5 super chat. Thank you. Always appreciate that your outlook, insight, and thinking things in stride. Thanks for helping quell the fears of streaming. I do what I can. I mean, some days there's going to be information put out that's just really going to kick right in the nuts. Today's article just wasn't one of those days for any direction at all. It's something you read, something you take from it what you want, and something that left, in my opinion, more questions than it presented facts. And I'm not dismissing this article. I'm not dismissing its facts. All I'm telling you, there's huge oceans of space there that you could drop all kinds of stuff in by the time James Gunn makes his announcements of what's going on. All I'm saying is take this article with a grain of salt, not because it may not be true, but because there's just so much vastness of nothing there in between the somethings that are there that there's just not enough for you right now. So let's take these things by day. And once again, we do have a guy that does talk to us when he's ready to. So, yeah. RJ, how far away am I? Am I that far down? Maybe 12:51. Oh yeah, I am far away. Just gonna have to wait and see what they do. I'm optimistic they'll handle the characters and property correctly. There's also much money on the table. They got to nail it. Yes, that's one thing I will 100% agree with. You're not going to get another shot like this. You're not going to get another shot like this. All right. So whatever it is that they're doing, think long and hard. Think long and hard. Take as much time as you need because you may not get another shot. You know, not within this generation. All right. I think that I'm going to cut it off. I know there's a lot of and I think we pretty much. I was only going to be on here for about 45 minutes. It's an hour and 35 minutes. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this article. I just think it's the article is what it is. It's up to you guys to be smart. All right, everybody will dive into any of these articles and they'll run away from them with what they want, whatever gets them clicks or whatever gives them clout or whatever gives them edge up on somebody. But that doesn't change what the article is. And to me, it's just an article that puts out some points of views, puts out some rumors. It does what every article in the history of time has done. But there's nothing there that as a fan tells me to think one way or another. Once again, I have questions. I have more questions now than I began. And I'm like, all right, let's start answering those questions. And the only people that can really answer those questions about any of this stuff. When I heard this article today, it was like Wonder Woman is gone, it's dead, it's over, blah, 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 blah. And when I read the article, it was like they just turned down her script. And that iteration of the character doesn't, that script doesn't fit what they're doing. Okay, come back with a different script. I need a little bit more than that. And they actually, in that article, put that out there. But I'm not hearing that when I tune into these other streams. I'm not hearing that when I see all these people go crazy on Twitter or my Facebook feed or anything else. I'm only hearing like the hard bullet points that smack people in the head, but I'm not hearing any of the common sense stuff that they put out. So I am retracting my disappointment for THR. And I'm sharing that disappointment with the people who are reading this article and deciding to go DEFCON 4 with it. So, all right, guys, thank you for all coming in. Like I said, I was borderline not going to stream tonight because I didn't know if I had enough information, but I have an opinion. It's just not about the facts of that article because, in my opinion, there's just not enough there for me to form a complete one. We've been given enough information to ask more questions. That's what, and we ask those questions. Only two people that listen to us. And it's not the Hollywood Reporter. It's not the Rap. It's not Direct. It's not any of these guys. It's not me. It's not any other YouTuber. It's one guy. And when he's ready to give us that answer, then I'll have to make a judgment to where all these articles and all these things fit within the reality. And then, but once he starts talking, it ain't going to matter who's writing anything. I'm getting my information straight from him. So that day will come. And once again, all I ask is that leave your minds open to whatever he presents. I have some businesses like it's going to struggle, but in the show, you are the hired geek form. Let's not run our heads into the wall. Let's give him a shot to put this together. Let's not let the Hollywood Reporter be our guide for what James Gunn produces. Let James Gunn be our guide for what James Gunn produces. And that is all I got. Thank you guys for being here. And who knows what happens tomorrow. I don't plan on streaming tomorrow, but I didn't plan on streaming. World, when the news hits, you got to put your voice out there. Thanks, guys. Can't even get the outro right. I pushed the outro. It gave me the intro. So goodbye again. Damn it, StreamYard. Killer.